Welcome, Aimee. You're a political foodie, founder of The Kitchen, co-leading Ghana food movement, and passionate about food. Is there anything else you'd like to add in introducing yourself?
No, that's a good description. Yeah, just with the Ghana food movement and the kitchen is really much like a collaborative effort. So I wouldn't call myself like the founder, but I'm definitely leading Ghana food movement right now together with one other director, Abdallah. But yeah, otherwise that's exactly what I'm doing.
Okay, so tell me about Ghana food movement.
Yes, thank you. I thank you for having me on this podcast. And it's really exciting to get to share my story, our story. So, the Ghana Food Movement, we are a nonprofit organization based in Ghana, and we are a network of food actors that believe that we can do food systems work differently and that we need to take into consideration our environment, the nutrition of our people, the well-being of our people, the livelihoods and the job opportunities of young people. And we just see the food system as such an incredible opportunity to transform a society if we do it in a good way. But what is happening in Ghana right now is, yeah, and in the world generally, as we all know, quite it's quite bad, and our food systems are backwards in many ways. So we started the nonprofit to kind of gather people that feel like we can do so much better when it comes to food and agriculture and environment in Ghana.
And what is it that you're doing differently? Like, if you can kind of map out the main challenges you see in the normal food system, and what is it that you are trying to change?
Yeah, well, that's a big question. I think one of the things that we've always focused on is youth, because we are youth, and there's a lot of Ghanaian youth are unemployed, and it's really hard for people to get good jobs. But a lot of youth are actually interested in food and agriculture. So we've always wanted to kind of bridge that gap of like telling young people how they can go about if they want to start a career in food and agriculture, connecting them to training opportunities, connecting them to job opportunities. So we've had since we've started almost, it was one of our first programs, we've had the Youth in Food program, which directly connects university graduates with job opportunities. And for us, it's like youth are the future, and it's youth that are going to drive the change in food systems work. So we need to engage the youth, give them the resources, give them the inspiration, and like build this energy and vibe around food systems work that we're trying to do. So that's one challenge. And then the other big challenge is just the diets and what we are eating and how diets are just, changing, and that we are relying on a very few crops that are not necessarily so nutritious for us, while there's so much diversity in the crops that we can cultivate and eat here in West Africa. I'm sure you know about fonio and moringa and baobab, and there's so many other examples of crops that are fitted for our environment. They're climate resilient, they're nutritious, but we're slowly going away from them, and we are losing recipes. We're losing the cooking techniques of these crops. And instead, we're turning to imported rice, imported noodles, wheat and bread that is also imported, fast food, of course. Like I just saw one new KFC branch in Accra, and it just makes me mad because we don't need KFC in Accra. Like we just don't need that. Yeah, those are
Mhm.
some of the big things. And of course the implication that diet change has on our nutrition. Because I think I'm actually scared for like how people, like the health of people, that as we're turning to these highly processed, yeah,
Mm.
foods, and we don't know the consequences of those diets yet. We're only going to see it later on. But the statistics for the non-communicable diseases rising, and diabetes and all of these, they're already here, but still, like, it's going to be even worse if we keep going this way.
Are you hopeful? Because I hear that, like, when I hear you speak, I hear a lot of passion in your voice. Obviously, you're also very aware of the big global challenges. So, do you feel hopeful in this work?
Yeah, I do. I'm an optimist at heart, and I always feel like there are so many good things happening. And that was also like the basis of the movement. It was not to say that we're starting something new or an approach that no one else is doing. We started because we saw that so many amazing things and initiatives were already happening, from farmers that are turning into organic and agroecological practices to amazing food entrepreneurs that are adding value locally, creating consumer ready goods, products based on these indigenous and local nutritious products. So everything is already going on, and it's just about like connecting these actors and building a community and feeling like we're not in this alone. So that the hope has always been there, because the good examples are already there, like in Ghana and across Africa. It's just about like, how do we unite as these actors that are like-minded, and how can we build support systems for each other? That's always what it's been about, and that's why I know that we're gonna make it, because it's just about connecting the dots.
And like from a more personal perspective, what do you see happening with people when they start to connect with indigenous produce, and when they start to grow their own food? Like,
it's addictive. Like when you can have access, which is a privilege, but when you can have access to food where you know where it comes from, it's just different. When you can get to go out to the farms and like get to pick your own fruits and vegetables, like, I mean, for me, like that, there's just nothing like it. And when I bring other people along, whether it is like in person or just like bringing people along on my social media, like people are really like excited about it, and people want that. And it's hard because a lot of people are just like in the cities and have busy lifestyles, and they need to eat what is available, and they might not get the chance to go out like to nature and to the farm so much. So with the Ghana food movement, we try to make it easier also for city people to have better access to these products, to organize farm trips, and just for everyone to be more connected to our food system, because it's easy to be in a bubble when you live in a city and you don't really know much about the food system around you. And when you know more, you also want to patronize that food system more. Like when you've met the farmers, then you will think, I mean, that's how I think. And I think more people are starting to think that way, that I would rather spend my money on Ghanaian farmers and the produce and their livelihoods than to, buy imported food. So that's a really big topic that we talk a lot about in Ghana. Yeah, with the here at the hub and everything.
how are the farmers responding to this? Hear that there's like this interest in supporting them.
Yeah, I mean, for them, for the farmers, we've had a couple of different programs and coming more and more, but it's two different realities. Like it's two completely different realities, and it's so important to understand that we can't just come and like, yeah, tell farmers like, yeah, we have this kitchen and we're growing these, like we want to cook with these things and blah blah. For the farmers, it's like, okay, can you assure how much quantity of what product can you assure that you're buying? It has to be like based on the demand and them being able to sell the crops. So I think we have more learnings also to really understand what is going to be our perfect dynamic with farmers groups now, as we have the kitchen. So we have a couple of farmers groups, like organic farmers and some cocoa farmers that we work with that sell to the kitchen, but we want to work on that model even more, and for the model to be a pilot that other like restaurants, supermarkets in the city can use. But I can't say that we figured that out either, because for now what I know is it's two different worlds, and to understand really the realities of the farmers and what goes into their decision making, I think we need to do even more work. And that requires research. So we are partnering with University of Ghana and Crop Research Institute and some of these research institutes to do that work. So it's really important.
And when you say, like, first of all, can you give an explanation of the kitchen? Because that's you've mentioned it several times. We talked about Ghana Food Movement, but just to be clear, what is the kitchen?
So when we started Ghana Food Movement in 2019. We registered as a nonprofit in 2021. And then our dream was always to actually have a physical space where the community can come together. So like an event space, a training space, a community space. So we managed to pitch the concept of a kitchen, which is basically a building where I'm sitting now, a fully equipped kitchen, an event space, offices, an urban farm, a guest house. So it's in the middle of Accra, like in the busy parts of Accra, but a little small oasis where local food and young people takes the center stage, and where we do everything we do revolves around local crops and young people. So be it training, be it events, be it bookings, team buildings. Yeah, we do a lot of different things.
And how are young people taking this to them, the idea of reconnecting with like indigenous recipes and the recipes of their ancestors? Because I think many people are not connected to that anymore. I mean, when I think about my own, I don't know how to cook Sudanese food. I would really love to. Then again, I'm not there. But it would be interesting to know like how the people of a country would respond to being invited to that journey again.
Yeah, no, I think the response has been really good. We have our head chef, a chef Abiro, and he's from the northern parts of Ghana, and he's long been an advocate for northern Ghanaian cuisine, and it's so nutritious and it's so climate resilient. And now, since we opened the kitchen, he has 3 chefs in training that works with him. And then on top of that, we have a chefs group of about 15 more chefs that are also like completely aligned with what we do in Ghana Food Movement. So that chefs community, they are super eager to reinvent recipes, to learn recipes, to show new dimensions of our crops, to show that whether you're eating for an anniversary or to celebrate, or you want to eat something fancy or trendy, we can do that but with our local crops. Because so much is going on social media right now, food trends, and we have boba spots here. We have the fast food chains that I talked about. Like people are want to stay up to trend when it comes to food, but how do we make our indigenous and local foods trendy? That is what the chefs are working on like every day, and every single menu is just like surprising. Like, okay, baobab mousse with a fonio crumble. Yes, let's do. Then like a tiger nut kebab. Tiger nut is like this super small tuber that grows across West Africa, and usually we make milk out of it, but it's also like a really good plant-based protein substitute. So we make these tiger nut kebabs that they taste like a meat, but it's made from a tuber. And just to mention a few examples, like if we want to make fonio pizza, we do that. Like whatever people like need to feel like it's exciting, we'll do that. And
Mm.
what's really interesting is that now this year, like just a couple of months ago, we started a project where the chefs go to their communities, so their regions, because everyone is from, a couple of chefs are from Accra, but most of the chefs are from different regions of Ghana. And we started a project where they go to their aunties and their grandmothers where they are from and collect recipes and stories to bring back to Accra and then train the rest of the chefs. Because even when we talk about Ghanaian cuisine, it's
Mm.
so diverse, there's
Mm.
so much knowledge, so many recipes and cooking techniques that are like out in the communities, but they're not necessarily in Accra. And for the chefs, like all the chefs training in Ghana is very westernized. You learn how to make souffles and carbonara and bechamel sauce and I don't know what. So most of the chefs that have training, they've learned like French and Italian cuisine. So now we're taking a step back and saying, wait, like there's so much knowledge even regionally within the communities that we still need to connect and educate ourselves. And the chefs are educating themselves among themselves. And it's that I'm really, really excited. We just started that. So we're still like building out the exact like processes and toolboxes so that the chefs can go and do that work and come back with that knowledge and turn that knowledge into recipes and dinner experiences, cooking classes. There's so much opportunities, and we just as a movement always want to encourage that we can gather that knowledge.
I heard you saying in an interview I was watching, like what we're doing is bigger than food. And I'd just like to ask you to expand on that because you've already touched on it, but I thought that's like a really important point. Could you kind of massage that for a while and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much bigger than food because it's I see this work like not Ghana food movement alone, but the food systems transformation work or like regenerative, sustainable food systems. Like for Africa, I think it is the only way forward. It is the way that we can actually build strong societies where young people have jobs and livelihoods. And the African continent is super young, so that's going to be like super important. Where are all these young people? What are they going to work with? But and our agriculture resources are there, the crops that we can grow here, our climate, everything is set up for like a booming agricultural industry, but a positive industry. And then of course for our nutrition, as Sankara says, and that I always say again, is that the one who feeds us, the one who feeds you controls you. So it's just really important that we can be food sovereign, that we can feed ourselves. Otherwise, we're always going to be dependent on other people, and that ties into so many other politics and like how the post-colonialism that we're living in, basically. So if we want to decolonize, if we want to become independent as an African continent, like it has to start with food. It's starting with food. And I I feel like I see a shift. I feel like good things are happening also on governmental like levels, that governments are realizing that if we need to focus more on our agriculture sector. Then the issue there sometimes is what type of agriculture are we going to focus on. And then Bill Gates and Agra and all of these big Monsantos and the seed companies, like they come in and are trying to push Africa to go towards that agriculture direction, which I don't and we don't agree with. But at least that we are, like, African politicians are also realizing that agriculture is like the big thing for Africa right now. And then we just need to do the work in making sure that that is an agenda that really takes into consideration all the actors of the value chain, from farmers to consumers, with young people involved, and nutrition taken into consideration, and our independence taken into consideration.
And how has this been for you, like on a personal level? I mean, I don't know if you remember, but we met like 10 years ago on a dance floor in Way Out West in Gothenburg. And then I've been following you ever since and seeing like your journey into this. And I'm just wondering, how have you changed? And how have your views changed, or what's moved you as you've been on this journey?
I mean, I think the most change come from learning so much, like, along the way, because I also came to Ghana after my studies. I came to Ghana 4 years ago. I had already come a few times, but it's also a new environment for me, a new food system to understand. I grew up in Sweden, so it is very different. So I think I think I've changed as I've learned more, and as I've connected with different actors in the food system, and really try to understand everyone, and what drives them, and to be able to connect these dots and see how we build better projects, better approaches to food systems work. Because when other kind of governments and projects are coming in to do food systems work, they're coming with their set of deliverables and agendas that they've formed, like, far away from where we are on the continent often. So for me, it's really about learning, like learning so much. And that is what's making me more aware, which is making me do better also personally, like, and, change my own mindsets and ways of thinking, is just by learning all the time.
Hmm. Why Ghana? How come you ended up? Because you're Malaysian Swedish,
Malian.
right? Malian, sorry, Malian. Why
Yes.
Ghana?
Yeah, so basically I came 6 years ago to do an exchange program in Cape Coast in Ghana. And that's how it was, like, it was random in some sense, like, that I wanted to go to Africa. I needed an exchange program that I could count my university points on. And I found that program in environmental studies, which I was really interested in, of course. And then I just fell in love. I fell in love with Ghana, the people, like, it was, yeah, it was just Like, it is just an amazing place. Yeah. And then I just decided to try to be here more. And then when I was finishing my studies, I found, I met with the people that were already doing Ghana food movement, but with what it was back then, like a network, a voluntary network, like people meeting up at different cafes and restaurants, talking about what we can do. And then I did an internship, and then I never left.
Wow. If you would like fast forward, say 15 years from now, and without compromising, like what would be the best case scenario of what's happening in Ghana and for Ghana food movement? What are your like biggest visions and dreams?
Wow.
Big question.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question.
Mm.
I think we have like more hubs around Ghana, but also probably around West Africa or Africa. And that the hubs, like the kitchen, they are really these like support facilities for young people. So for young people to find jobs in food, for young people to grow their businesses in food, they can rent the space, they can get business advice, they can get connected to investors, like this full like support hub. And then of course that's nutritious, locally sourced food is so much more accessible to consumers, both rural and urban consumers. Because right now, what you see is that it's actually for packaged foods, it is like local packaged foods are much less accessible out in the country than in Accra. So it's basically the big Nestle's and the big like international companies, their packaged food, which is like the faster food. Like, you know, when you're not cooking yourself and you just need something quick, like whether it's like coffee in the morning or noodles or something like this, then it's always imported. But I want
Mhm.
to see us make all of those consumer goods locally. So that the chocolate milk that we're buying, of course, is made with Ghanaian chocolate and our ingredients. The coffee in the morning, more people are drinking coffee, but the coffee is not even from Ghana, but we grow coffee in Ghana, you know, so that so like in every corner store, like all the packaged foods are just Ghanaian and or African. African is also fine because you know we need to trade with other African countries, and this does that. You know, we're eating better, we're eating healthier. The nutrition of what we're eating is better. And then one more thing that we haven't spoken about so much is also how we create experiences around our food for visitors also to experience. And so tourism is coming up like a lot in Ghana. A lot of diasporans are coming back. Ghana is marketed as this like good entry point to Africa. So how can we also educate visitors to really engage with our food resources and our food cultures and build these type of experiences surrounded like centered on indigenous crops and cooking techniques and people going out and learning, going out to the farms, going out to cook with the grandmothers and creating a lot of livelihood opportunities that way as well. Like a reframing of a repositioning of tourism in Ghana and Africa that really also takes into consideration the food so that visitors don't come here to, you know, eat sushi and pizza. Because what
Mm.
that will do, that reframing will also create the demand outwards for these African products, you know? And we have a lot of potential of actually creating products here, adding the value and exporting it to the rest of the world. And it's already happening like in the States. I know that they're talking a lot about fonio now and things like this. So yeah, that was a little bit
Mm.
messy, but those are like I think three things like the job opportunities and the livelihoods, the support for young people and their entrepreneurship, the access to local crops, and then the experiences and the kind of tourism industry that can also be built around it.
On a grand level, it feels like this is really about taking also back the land that's been outsourced and, you know, outsourced to monocultures. And then instead, where you're importing in products from the rest of the world. And in that process of taking back the land, like what's the philosophy behind organic or regenerative ways of creating the food or growing the food?
Yeah, so I mean, the philosophy is indigenous. The philosophy is to learn from how our ancestors were planting and all the methods that they were using. So since colonialism, our agricultural methods were seen as backwards, and we were introduced with new crops and new techniques that were supposedly better, and we went away from the natural and climate resilient ways that we had been farming for ages. So it's about going back to those techniques, and there's a couple of really good institutes doing that across Africa. There's the Songhai Institute in Benin. There's Centre Mampuya in Senegal. We have a couple of organic farming institutes here in Ghana. It's happening, but it's also quite small scale for now. I think the reliance on inputs like pesticides and chemical fertilizers is really a lot when it comes to like the general smallholder farmer. That is, again, like just realizing their realities and needing yields and needing to be able to feed their families. But it's crazy in a way that the the people in Africa that are most in danger of food insecurity are the smallholder farmers, because they're not
Hmm.
they're going away from growing their own food to growing cash crops with these inputs, pesticides and chemical fertilizers, and that is just like completely insane to think about.
It sounds like upside down.
Yeah, no, it's
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 really so lopsided.
no, it's really crazy. And then in the cities, that's where we have this like double-sworded issue of like food insecurities in rural communities, and then like obesity and diabetes now in the cities.
And food waste probably as well.
Yes, food waste is also, yeah, it's also something that we talk about, but it's different in the sense that, well, this is, I don't know the research, but for me, it's like there's always someone that will eat the food. Like, for example, at the kitchen, like there would never be food that is not eaten, because there's always someone that will eat the food. So it's like, I think it's a little bit different when we talk about food waste in the West and maybe in my context in Ghana.
I'd like to discuss also just your personal journey into food. Is it something that you've grown up with, or is the passion coincided with you exploring your time in Ghana?
Think it's I didn't know I was interested in food until I actually came to Ghana, because I was always like very interested in politics and environment and conflicts. But then when I met with the Ghana food movement, I realized that I could connect all of those things to food. Food is just like so universal, as we talked about earlier. And then I just realized that, wow, this is perfect for me. And that's why I call myself a political foodie, because it's there's so much that goes into what we feed ourselves with, like what we put into our mouths. Like there's so much politics and history and culture that informs what we're putting into our mouths, and that is what's interesting. Like it's an endless discussion. Why are we eating what we're eating? So I think I just got really hooked, like when I actually met with the Ghana food movement, and then I started like using my own social media channels to talk about it more, and like using it to discover new places and new cultures. And yeah, it's just like amazing for me. Like I love what I do so much, and I'm so thankful that I get to do these things.
And so, do you see yourself in Ghana the rest of your life, or do you think you'll ever bring aspects of what? Because here in Sweden, there's actually a lot happening too. There's like Reformaten, I'm sure maybe you've heard about, and people that are
Yes.
opening this livs
Yes.
and I think there's also kind of a counter movement that are saying like, hey, do we really know that regenerative farming is better for the land? Are we sure that small scale farming is better? So it'll be interesting to see how that debate unfolds. But I was just curious, is there anything in you that's interested in bringing what you've cultivated in Ghana back to Sweden?
Well, I think I will be in Ghana or West Africa or Africa, at least for the rest of my life. But it's always about that knowledge exchange. We do value it so much. We travel like for different conferences or to meet with other organizations. And we have a really good partnership with Reformaten, and they do really good work on the policy and politician kind of engagement, government like engagement on these questions, and we're actually learning from them. So this fall, we're actually going to be working and workshopping with them on how we can also target politicians more in our work, because we are quite food sector and consumer focused when it comes to the people that we actually reach. But now it's time to also talk to the politicians and tell them what's up. So knowledge exchanges is definitely always going to continue. I went to Vanuatu in July to exchange with an organization there that was incredible, doing similar things like as we do. So it's always going to be part of the work.
Okay, what project do you have now that you're most excited about?
I think it's what I mentioned about us setting up like a good system of collecting knowledge from across the country, but also like across West Africa, and using that knowledge to inspire young people to start businesses, to become chefs, to do food experiences, and to figure out what is the exchange. Like when we're going out to an auntie or a grandma in a community and they're sharing like this really precious cooking techniques or farming techniques with us, what is the exchange? Like how do we make sure that whatever we do is also going to benefit them? Is it that we are connecting a farmer to a young person that wants to turn the farmer's crop into a consumer good, and then there's that linkage of the entrepreneur buying and creating demand for a specific crop? Is it that we help communities in setting up these food experiences so that we can channel all types of visitors, local and international visitors, to come and experience these cooking techniques and these farming practices and set up a kind of regenerative tourism framework? That is what the organization in Vanuatu is doing. So that's why I'm inspired by that. So I think it's really about us connecting like soil to plate and continuing to do that work. And really for us, like for me personally, to always continue learning so many new things and to see how we can actually pilot like some ways of doing this food systems work that is always tied to the local and to the indigenous knowledge. I hope that
Mhm.
makes sense. I hope it makes.
Yeah. I think it sounds really cool because it sounds kind of like decolonial entrepreneurship, because we usually tend to associate that maybe to globalization or the market at large. But what happens when you empower the youth to look at their local communities, and what happens when we actually make things with a respect for uh, the lineage that we are where we are? It makes me happy to hear that the youth are excited about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then I think there's going to be investors. Like I think there's going to be people that actually wants to support this type of work and this type of entrepreneurship. It's just done in a new way. Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what can come out of that.
Is there anything lastly that we haven't spoken about the work that you do that you'd like to highlight or lift?
No, I mean, just to say that we haven't figured everything out. Like we are learning as we go. We are connecting, absorbing people that are like-minded, and also trying to find our place, in the world when it comes to like getting funding, building an organization. Like it's definitely not easy. And I can't say that we've always like taken the right decision in every single moment, but we are trying as we go. We are young people that know that we're passionate and we align because of that. And I would just say that I would just encourage people to like always try for what you believe in, but just always acknowledge that you have to learn along the way, and that it's okay to make mistakes. But as we go, we learn more, and we learn from our experiences. We learn by connecting and building our networks, and all of these things. and that we're always interested in connecting with people that are on similar
Mm.
journeys, these type of themes, young people that are setting up organizations or businesses that kind of aligns with this, and localizing everything that we do in food. So we're always interested to connect and learn from others how they did it, and to share how we are going about it, because no one is, I don't think anyone has perfectly figured it out, but the more we can learn from each other and also connect our networks to each other, the better we will do and the more people we'll be able to reach.
Thank you so much, Aimee, for your time. I mean, it's just so clear that you're really passionate about this work. And when I hear you paint the future of what you envision for Ghana, I really hope it goes in that direction.
What is it?
You know, I was hoping you'd say that. I really do want to come visit. I mean, I'm so curious about all the things you're doing. It really touches the heart of my interests as well, both from a political but also more of a personal journey of, reconnecting to the earth and eating localized foods and what does that mean personally. So let's make it happen.
No, you're so welcome. And yeah, let's talk about it after, but we are
Yeah.
here, like we have the guest house, like we can do a project together. Like there's a lot of opportunities.
I'd love that. Thank you so much for this hour. It's just lovely hearing about Ghana food movement in the kitchen, and you shine brightly when you talk about it.
Thank you. And
Okay.
should I say how people can maybe
Yes.
follow us? Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, so we are active on Instagram and LinkedIn, so Ghana Food Movement. And then if you want to reach out about, collaborating or something like this, you can reach out on Aimee, so AIMEE at GhanaFoodMovement.com. Always happy to connect with people.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and let's stay in touch.